It is truly the end of an era, when a film led by two Hollywood superstars and directed by one of the most critically acclaimed directors ever opens second next to a shot-for-shot remake of a Disney film. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is really good. I expected nothing else but a really good film coming from the legendary Quentin Tarantino. I've never watched a film he's made that I disliked, and that's a pretty impressive reputation as far as my standards are concerned. When it was announced, I was excited to hear that Quentin Tarantino was telling a story surrounding the events of the Manson family Tate murders. Growing up in California, I heard about Charles Manson at a fairly young age, and after editing a documentary about serial killers in my early 20s, I was very interested in seeing an over-exaggerated interpretation of the events. Given Tarantino's reputation for raw violence and harsh dialogue...
Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan! Get it?
I wasn't quite sure where he was going with this. Little did I know until I saw the trailers that the plot would not revolve around Sharon Tate or the Manson family, but on a has-been actor played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and his loyal stunt double played by Brad Pitt. The Mansons are more of an inconvenient obstacle to these two characters, particularly Brad Pitt's character. These interactions ultimately lead to a confrontation that takes some liberty with its source material to create a climax that is an over-the-top revision of history. And it's pretty damn satisfying. As most Tarantino films do, the plot takes its time and meanders around, following the daily struggles and hobbies of Rick Dalton, Cliff Booth, and Sharon Tate. Watching DiCaprio's Dalton break down over several sequences of coming to terms with reaching the end of his career as an actor was well executed and a good metaphor for the end of the age of stardom that used to exist in Hollywood around the Golden Age. Brad Pitt's Cliff Booth character was charming and relentless, as well as the main conduit of the film's plot relating to the Manson family. He honestly had some of the best scenes in the movie, and the funniest dialogue. Margot Robbie made Sharon Tate's character likably free-spirited, and fit the role rather nicely. As for her overall presence in the film though, she was more of a storytelling device than an actual character. Overall, there were great casting choices made in this film. The characters that portray actors from the time period do a spot-on job, such as Mike Ho as Bruce Lee, and Damian Lewis as Steve McQueen. Having the legendary Al Pacino back on screen, in a role where he's being taken seriously again, was refreshing. And not a stupid cash grab film capitalizing on his acclaim.
What's my name?
Dunkachino!
It's a whole new game.
Dunkachino!
You want creamy goodness? I'm your friend. Say hello to my chocolate blend.
And all the people playing members of the Manson family were directed in the best way to establish what kind of vibe they were supposed to give, but also to be showcased as the pathetic assholes that they were. Despite the film's 2-hour and 41-minute runtime, it flows by and remains engrossing and entertaining, much like all Tarantino films. It has callbacks to old film styles and showcases the environment of the time period pretty amazingly. There are so many vintage cars driving around and old school businesses showcased. If you grew up in that era or are familiar with the history of Hollywood, it will feel affectionately nostalgic. It definitely earns its R rating and has some messed up violence, much like The Hateful Eight or Reservoir Dogs, and has that serious but comically satirical edge to it like Inglourious Basterds. Also, much like Inglourious Basterds, it takes liberties with historical events and creates a fantasy that is both visually and emotionally satisfying. This is by no means Quentin's best film, or my favorite film for that matter, but it's a solid 8 out of 10. I would recommend it 1,000 times more than most of the shit coming out of Hollywood these days. As a fan of film and film history, it definitely struck a chord with me.
To the man with the exceptional beard and his unexceptional nigger.